I mean, this is really nostalgic for me because back in 2019, I was invited here to be the program chair, and it was the first time in this venue, which I think is super cool, the whole train thing. And then COVID happened, right? And then there was no more Hustef in person, there was virtual. And then I heard that the venue changed, and then I heard the venue changed back. So first of all, Attila, Tibor, thank you for inviting me here. It really is an honor to be here at this 15th year celebration for Hustef. And for those of you who have been sleeping, there's a couple of things that have been said. So I want you to let me know if, by a show of hands or however, if you've heard any of these things within the last few months or a few weeks, right? Because a lot of things are being said, right? First one is that AI is going to take over testing, right? Okay. Testers just need to learn prompt engineering. How many people have heard that? We don't need manual testers. Yeah, you all have been getting slammed from day one, And agents are the future of test automation. So the first thing I'll say to you is that this is not an anti-AI presentation. Actually, most of you who know me because of AI, because I didn't just start. And actually, a big part of this is very uncomfortable for me, because one of the things that I don't do very well is talk about my own accomplishments. But I have some things to tell you that are very important, and I need to qualify myself in those things before I say them. And so it forces me to kind of talk about me, but in a very specific context, right? So if you don't know me, my name is Tariq, and I've had a pretty good career in software testing, starting from academia and rolling all the way through industry. And you'll see in a second, some of those accomplishments are quite notable. And maybe one, if not multiple of those will resonate before I say what I have to say. And so it started here in this building, actually, my career path with AI and autonomous testing. This is FIU's computer science building back in 2009. And I graduated with a PhD in computer science, actually focused on the topic of autonomic self-testing. And of course, this was a while ago. And while I wasn't specifically talking about AI, I was talking about systems that could dynamically adapt. You see, back then, Microsoft, IBM, HP, all the big players were talking about a future of systems that could somehow self-heal, self-configure. And they were talking about these self-start capabilities in a way that was a little bit surprising for me, because what they weren't talking about was the fact that if you're going to have all of this dynamic behavior, these systems somehow need to be able to test themselves. You see, they were talking about these autonomous agents that would come in and do all these dynamic things at runtime, but whenever we as software engineers change software, we would retest it before we ship it. But here we have a runtime system that is dynamically changing, and where is testing? And so my dissertation actually focused on, let's have autonomous agents that can actually test those adaptive portions of the system. You see, you'll go to the booths, you'll hear a lot of people talking. You'll hear all these vendors talking about their tools. And it was real surprising to me when I saw the pitch that, oh, we invented autonomous testing. I was like, oh, really? Because most of these companies started in 2014. And I published my dissertation in 2009. So who invented autonomous testing? But I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, that's That's an academic setting. So maybe for those of you who are rooted in industry, that doesn't mean a lot. Now, in 2015, when all this was going on, I was working in industry. I was working at Ultimate Software, a HR and payroll software company based in Western Florida. And I told the story here on this stage when I was program chair about my ultimate journey. And every now and then I go back and look at that because, again, I don't do very well talking about myself in terms of accomplishments, but that story was more about the journey with this fantastic company with a great culture. And I'm really, really proud of that. But one thing that happened while we were there was that at one point in 2015, my boss came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think is going to be the future of testing?" And I said, well, based on like my background and my research and what I've been doing, I think that the future of testing is going to be such that we will somehow learn to have the software test itself. And he said, okay, our CTO is giving us a blank check. You can go get a team, and you're going to go off and build the future of testing here at Ultimate. And of course, what did we name it? We named our moonshot project the most ancient historical animal you could think of, pterodactyl. And the pterodactyl project was one where we actually investigated using different AI and machine learning techniques to have these autonomous agents crawl the application and build an application model, define the states, and actually navigate through those states and do testing, right? Applying different testing techniques and rolling up those reports. Actually doing natural language processing to analyze requirements, highlight different types of issues, both functional and non-functional. And as you would do in industry, we filed patents that were accepted. And so if you don't take my academic background, maybe you'll accept that me and the team at Ultimate hold a patent for a system that can autonomously test a computer system and all the sub-patents that are associated with that. One of the things that we believe in and that I firmly believe in and that you see represented here at WhoStef is community. And so we didn't just build an internal tool, we shared an open source prototype. That open source prototype was codenamed Agent for AI generation and exploration and test. And we put that out there so that people could actually see and interact with and download and see agents actually testing software and generating test cases using boundary value analysis, equivalence partitioning, and have that code just available. And this is before generative AI. This is before ChatGPT. So, stepping forward, doing it as part of Ultimate Software was one thing, but then I got the opportunity in 2019 to step out into a company that would be kind of pivotal in shaping the path forward in autonomous testing. So I joined my buddy Jason Arbin at Test.ai. Test.ai was a Gradient Ventures funded startup, which is Google's AI research arm. So one thing is an internal tool, and another thing is to be representing this at scale and trying to have a grand mission like testing the world's apps. You see, we were looking into how can we leverage artificial intelligence and a machine learning platform to go off and not just test one app like we normally do in an organization, but have that testing be reusable across all applications and all application domains. See, because a lot of the existing automation that we had, nothing against Selenium, we got Simon here, but was very rigid, right? It was tied to the implementation, tied to the DOM. These things weren't very flexible that you could just reuse them across all applications. And so that was the goal with leveraging AI and computer vision and GPT-3 back then, right? And so we built that platform. And of course, we shared as much as we could, right? Startup company, you can't share everything. But we shared some of the details about how it was architected, how it was built. And my job as the chief scientist was to lead the ML engineering team that was building the platform, as well as to head up all of our innovation and see where we were going. And of course, that part of me that always wants to share said, hey, you know what? Let's take care of business first. And we had a lot of enterprise clients, including Google, Microsoft, Epic Games. And we built enterprise scale AI and delivered it to them. And then, what do you do next? You share. So I wrote this report for O'Reilly. Some people call it a book. It's not that big, but it's big enough, where we shared our experiences building AI for test automation, right? Where we not only tested individual apps, but we tested the entire app stores. Where we didn't just think about testing your traditional applications, but testing very difficult things like video games and video streaming apps. Things that required new capabilities that we would only find with artificial intelligence. And so that brings me to 2022. And now I work for EPAM. And EPAM is a large company. I thought I worked for a large company before. Ultimate Software grew from 1,200 people to 5,000. EPAM is 60,000 growing. And I initially joined EPAM to get away from a lot of this AI stuff. I wanted to get back to the roots of software testing and do consulting. But we would have a different story in 2022, as you all know. And so at some point, it became, hey, we need you to focus on this AI stuff again. And where was it being applied mostly? In industry. It was thinking about how can we leverage generative AI to improve software productivity. And that's exactly where I started. Of course, being a quality-oriented person, I started in that domain, right? With software testing. But one of the things that you realize is that testing is not quality engineering, right? Quality engineering focuses on the entire life cycle, from requirements all the way through. And so what started off with testing ended with the entire life cycle. And of course, it becomes important to help people understand what are the key challenges of applying this technology. This technology is great, but most people start stepping into a place where they're afraid. Hey, what about security? What about intellectual property? How can we make sure that our people are using this technology right? And so it was that first kind of set of fundamental things that people needed to understand to overcome those fears that I focused on, and then stepped into really what was a rapid evolution that we would still see today. You see, we started off this generative AI journey all together with a very famous chatbot, ChatGPT. And that kind of brought it all at people's fingertips, right? Like you could go to this interface and you could start interacting with this conversational AI. Maybe it's not ChatGPT, maybe it's Gemini. And you could start asking it questions and getting information and even start using it for problem solving. But the minute that you start using it for problem solving, anything besides conversational, you had a problem that you really needed to get that information into the tools that you cared about. And so the next step in that evolution was really about how can we integrate or bring AI to us in the tools that we live in instead of us going to AI all the time. And these days, it's amazing how things go full circle. But now we're talking about agents, right? Bringing tools into the fold and then making sure that the output of this generative model can be acted on and we can automate entire workflows. This is very powerful. And you can't do that without a supporting ecosystem. So I was very foundational, not just in figuring out the use cases, but helping to shape the tooling that we would need to build. First, starting with tooling that allows us to leverage different models and have that in a secure way, and then building on top of that, where we can now bring these things into the tools and environments that we care about, these co-pilots, and then evolving that into an entire agentic platform for building out these automated workflows. But you see, people need more than tools. See, productivity is not something easy to measure. And so you also need, in addition to tools, guardrails, transformation practices. And most importantly, you need to be able to have a multi-tiered approach to measuring productivity. You see, it's not just improving what I do in my role, because if I can generate more code faster, but testing can't keep up, then that value stream is just blocked. And so you build on this multi-tiered approach, starting with adoption metrics, the team satisfaction, the individual productivity measures, and then the value stream. And so all of that came together. And EPAM calls it AI Run, right? And the analogy is that you have to crawl before you can walk, before you can run, and therefore leading organizations through their AI journey needs to be very systematic, starting from piloting to scaling to full organizational enablement. So, if you don't listen to me because of my academic accolades or my initial industry experience building internal tools or the enterprise scale level product development, then maybe you will listen to me because of my transformation services background and consulting background. Because this is the current state of the art. The current state of the art is that we have agentic AI, people are building pipelines to automate workflows, and it's very important to put humans inside the loop and to have a development ecosystem that can support this entire endeavor. But what is coming is a full takeover of the lifecycle. AI is going to take over testing. It's not just talk that you're hearing. Agents are the future of test automation. It is not a joke. Everything in my experience, in all of the journey that I've told you, tells me that this is where we're going. And it's happening a lot faster than people think. A lot of people think, oh, we have a couple more years. I'm like, look at the last few months of innovation, people. What do you mean we have a couple more years or 5 more years? No. It's a lot faster than that. And so we have to, as a community, start to wake up. But you see, even though I think that this is a takeover, it is also not exactly the way that people paint it. My idea of this is that, yes, AI is going to take over the life cycle. There is going to be more automation. But it's not in the traditional sense of a replacement. There's a huge repositioning happening. You see, in the game of chess, which is one of my favorite strategy games, see, the pawn starts out as a very limited piece, limited in its movement, limited in the directions which it can attack, and often overlooked, until the pawn reaches the top of the board, at which point the pawn can become one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful piece on the board, which is the queen. The queen is the most powerful because it can not only advance a lot faster and many more spaces than any other piece, but it can also attack in multiple directions. You see, a lot of people are here worried about the fact that AI is going to take their job. AI is only going to take your job if you let AI take your job. You see, why would I get rid of someone who has embraced AI and can use these tools as a force multiplier? Probably about 3 years ago, I was talking at Agile Testing Days on a beach in Cologne about force multipliers, and that AI is one of the greatest force multipliers that we will have. And it's true today. So the tester that can use AI to accelerate how quickly they can move and in how many directions they can move, right? Maybe you're just in functional testing. A lot of people think this is a play for the people who are technical. No, 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 no. Actually, the people who are these manual testers or know the domain or understand what should happen in the market for these things are actually the most to benefit from AI. See, because you specifying what you need and being able to validate the output of that is actually probably what will be needed from the human. All the other things are probably going to be taken care of by agents. So I want you to understand that this completely flips the script. But this is not new news. Like, I talked about this in the same book that I published about my experiences at test.ai. I talked about the fact that AI was going to take over testing, and not just one dimension, right? Not just one level, all levels, and then multiple concerns, even cross-cutting concerns like performance and accessibility. And so what does that mean for the future of testers? I'm in a room full of 700 testers. What are you going to be doing? Well, you're going to be doing one of three things. Either you're going to be leveraging AI for testing because you took the challenge and you embraced it, or you're going to be testing AI systems because you still need some level of human validation to make sure that those systems align with our values and are actually working for us. You see, even the most sophisticated AI system is still built for a human. Or you're going to be testing the thing that machines can't test, which is the human experience. Which finally brings us to this keynote. You see, this keynote couldn't start without establishing a foundation for it. You see, we are in this space right now where you're trying to think about what testing really means. And we need to redefine testing and redefine quality engineering and understand where we're going. And so, let's think about this for a minute. What if AI takes over? What if we have fully autonomous testing and the agents can test all the software? You see, at the end of the day, you would have everything tested but nothing experienced. And that can't work. And so this is the idea of human experience testing. Now, Attila came and he invited me here, and he has on like a very special t-shirt. And I'm like, I can't really deal with the competition, right? You see, this is a shift for us, right? Hopefully this comes off without ripping off everything else. But earlier this year, I went to Africa. And it was cool being in Africa because we went on safari, right? And this is my Nelson Mandela shirt, which is better than your capybara shirt. Also has on the king of the jungle, symbolic of the king, right? And now we're ready. You see, like, we've got caught up in all this AI stuff and forgotten a very important foundational part of software testing. The idea of exploration, the idea of human present testing, the idea of the fact that the human experience is really a key factor in determining the quality of a software product. And it's not just software that we're dealing with, right? So, you see, typically you talk about user experience or product experience, which has to do with digital touchpoints. But software doesn't live on an island by itself. It lives immersed in our world, our real world. And so the idea here is that there's the human experience and building for the human, not just the user, which involves, yes, digital touchpoints, but also physical touchpoints, and then experiential touchpoints, because we are emotional beings. And so Human experience testing is the systematic, data-driven approach to evaluating end-to-end customer journeys on these three types of touch points: digital, physical, and experiential. And it is done by real people, right? That is part of the definition. So AI can't automate something that needs to be done by real people until AI can walk in here, and even when it can, it probably still can't drink your coffee or eat your pastries. And so it can't truly experience all the things in the real world. So bear with me a while as we go through this idea of human experience testing together. Because you see, we are at HUSTEF, and we are testers. And I brought my exploratory hat. And therefore, you all can experience what I'm going to experience for the rest of my career, probably, ever since I opened up this topic. You see, I came on a trip here. I went from Fort Lauderdale to Newark to Frankfurt to Budapest. And understand that this topic has taken over my life. So now I look at everything through the lens of these three touch points. And everything that I do gets caught up, you see, because when you think about any experience, you can think about all the different touch points. I start my journey, actually, booking a flight on my mobile phone. And then I go to the airport. Maybe if I'm lucky, I can check in from my app. If not, I visit a counter and I experience that, and there's a human agent there. I start looking at where I need to drop my bags if I'm checking bags through. Now, I fly on United a lot, and so I have Premier access, so maybe my experience is not the same as everyone else's when it comes to that, and I'm conscious of that. Once I get on the plane, how am I being treated? How is it when it comes to the in-flight entertainment? These are going to be interestingly long flights. So after I get through security and all that stuff, and I get in the plane and I'm ready to go, I'm maybe ready to sleep on the long leg from the USA to Europe. You see, a lot of touch points. And you got to pay attention to special, unique events that happen to someone on their journey, because that will impact what their experience is. You see, before I was leaving, my flight was delayed like 3 times from Florida. And I live in Florida, so I stayed home. And I stayed home and I thought, okay, I'll just wait till it gets closer and then I'll leave and go to the airport. So they told me my flight was gonna leave at like 2:50, and I get in the Uber and I realized, hey, they moved my time back up. They said, your flight is gonna be less delayed, right? 20 minutes. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna get there in time now, right? Went from being early to being late. What's gonna happen there? So I'm scrambling. And on top of that, I had been upgraded to first class for free. So I'm like, man, now I'm gonna lose my first class seat. All these things are going through your mind. These are the immediate events before an experience that will impact how someone perceives whatever else happens. But also there's historical context that also matters. Previous events, I've taken many flights before. Actually, a month earlier, it was me and my family flying to Montevideo, Uruguay. And this time I was traveling by myself here, but normally my family is with me. And going on that journey, there's a lot of different aspects of that. And I could rate and rank those things, right? So what was my pre-flight experience at departure with those digital touch points? What did it look like with the physical? What was my in-flight experience and how would I rate that? And then finally, once I was done, there's some elements of this that are physical, digital, but then I land in my destination and I'm like fully caught up in the experience of being in a new place. All these things will matter as you do testing in the real world. After that, we went to Argentina and we took a ferry. And I have 2 daughters, 7 and 12, and my wife. And the main point here is that there's a whole other set of touch points, right, which you would expect. But then also remember that how one person starts the journey, even if you start from a similar state, like my kids were very happy when we started, right? Is not the same way that they will end even after you finish. You see, my oldest daughter was fine. It was just an hour and a half. But my youngest daughter was like, why are we here so soon? She had just had like a very long flight before where she got like 12 hours of tablet time. And now she got like 1 hour of tablet time. Totally unhappy. So then there's the conference experience, right? I went to 2 conferences, the latter being Testiarla, which was the first kind of inaugural conference there in Argentina for testing. And again, did human experience testing there at that event. And now you all are here. And your experience, for some of you, started when you walked through that door. And you're here as an attendee, and everything around you, from the physical space to the people, to the food, to the signage, everything matters. And you can do experience testing live and make sure that you give proper feedback on all the things. You see, this is why human experience testing requires humans. And soon we'll talk about why it matters to you and to organizations and to the future of everything that we do. You see, it doesn't matter if you're an attendee, if you're a speaker, if you're a sponsor, right? We have a booth here in the back. And so for me, when I come, I normally go and say hi to my people because I'm part of EPAM. But for some of you, today wasn't the starting point. Some of you started yesterday. And actually, it was also very cool for me because, like, I started the tutorial session and tutorial day at the EPAM office here in Hungary, in Budapest. And for me, that was special. And everything from the time I arrived, from looking for where I needed to be, from thinking about how am I gonna make sure that everyone gets registered. Thankfully, Attila was there to help coordinate everything. And of course, for people attending the tutorial, it's about the speaker. And then you go through the experience, right? You go through the experience of sitting in the tutorial room, going through the content, and that is the main event. And of course, you want to have a good experience there. And at the end of all of that, there's a survey, and you have to give your feedback. But there's so many other things, right? From the food options, right? And if they had something that catered for you, like there's users with special needs and requirements. Are we catering to that? There's coffee. We're in Europe. This is a cultural thing. Like if you don't have coffee, something is going to happen bad. And even using the restroom. Don't worry, I didn't take any more pictures of him. Thank you for letting me snap that one. For others of you, your journey begins here on the stage because you're a speaker. Maybe some of you are speaking for the first time or giving a keynote for the first time. And when you stand up here in front of people and you look at how large this place is, that can be intimidating. What has the conference done to take care of speakers? Like Chilla has been doing this for a long time and she's great. I walked into my hotel room and had a gift for speakers. We went to the speaker appreciation dinner last night and I had way too many pink drinks. It was just great. So persona matters as well as you go through human experience testing. But let's make it real, you know. In Hungary, you have services that have experiences. They have digital ones. There's something similar in Latin America, right? And these have user journeys that go through those flows of going from a digital space where you're ordering a meal, and then an experiential space where you're waiting on it to arrive in a physical space, and then, you know, having your meal, et cetera, et cetera. And so You can do this for all types of experiences. And the reason why this matters so much is because this is what causes people to either leave an experience and never come back, or come back and bring more people. So it directly maps to customer growth and customer retention, which is your bottom line, which is everything that your C-level cares about. So this type of testing actually helps you align with the business. You see, testers have had to fight for this bug is important kind of stuff. Well, everything here, all the tests are important. They're important because if you can really hone in on what is making your customers unhappy and leave, then you can save money. Or if you can take that from a good experience to a great experience, then you can scale your business. So, human experiences, right? Best business strategy is a satisfied customer. We want to align the assumptions of reality with the assumptions that we make every day as leaders or engineers. You want to be able to use this testing to check how is the experience for different types of people from different cultures and different backgrounds. And last but not least, you want to be able to build customer loyalty in those experiences and test them. So, there's all types of experience testing that this can lead to. Testing it in the field, looking at user insights and feedback, or having a targeted experience test. I think that this is a big part of the future of testing, and folks like yourself will be instrumental in this. But I don't want to close this without saying one of the most important things that's part of our future. You see, it's always great to make sure that things work. But understand that even AI is a big part of the human experience. And it is one that we can't ignore. It is the thing that started the motivation for this talk in terms of the transformation. It is the thing that motivates the human experience that needs to happen in this digital age of artificial intelligence. And furthermore, it is one of the most complicated parts of testing human experiences. Because you see, these AI systems are very dynamic. You see, they change at runtime. Sounds familiar? Not only that, but there's a huge impact to society. And if we get it wrong and the AI is not aligned with our human values, then there could be a lot of problems. And last but not least, when we build these types of systems and we put these highly dynamic, adaptive components around them, it means that when they change, the whole system can start to fall apart. So it can really impact all of our systems engineering. So, what is this community supposed to do? Well, I want you to recognize that you hold the keys to testing AI systems. Because a lot of the time, people in machine learning engineering or data science background, they aren't thinking about the end user. They aren't thinking about all the other aspects of software engineering besides that ML component or the math and statistical measures behind them. And so you have to be able to bring that to the table to test all types of characteristics and attributes of AI. Everything from fairness to safety to privacy to the usefulness of AI and machine learning systems. And it's real easy these days for anyone to pick up a model and infuse it into an application, which infuses it into your real world experience. And so we have to think about how to test these things. And I challenge you, as you go through the conference, there's going to be a lot of talks about AI. As you go back to your companies, there's a lot of talks about what you're doing specifically with AI. But don't forget that AI needs testing just as much as testing needs AI. And so, I leave you with my iceberg. I drew this about 2 years ago, believe it or not. And it's just to give you the analogy that it's not just the tip of the iceberg, not just the user experience, but AI has a lot of things underneath the hood. And so where are you going to go? Where are you going to fit? You see, we need to use AI sometimes to test other AI systems and build LLMs as a judge. But the ultimate judge has to be a human being. And so as you go through this and you think about your future, where in the technological space you fit, I challenge you to take up the charge to help us to build better, more reliable, more resilient AI systems and make sure that these systems are indeed aligned with human values. Thank you.
This was definitely the biggest applause so far. Record-breaking.
Well, that's good. Look,
okay.
You are very funny, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, so funny.
I hope that's a compliment. Okay, let's see the questions. I was so happy to see that the first question that we're going to ask already contains a word that I will not be able to pronounce. Thank you. I knew I could count on you guys. So can we see the questions anywhere? No? We don't see the questions?
Do I turn this off? Or?
No, I think, yeah, I think you're good.
Oh,
I think we should be seeing it very soon somewhere. Nobody asked anything yet. That's not true. I do know that they have asked. Oh, Kussi, to the rescue. Thank you. Okay. Some advice to fight why? What's that?
CISO.
Okay, CISO. Authorities, we can determine if the AI is safe to use. It blocks us to get data for AI.
Yeah, so this is a question about security, right? And folks at the C-level who care about security. It's actually, again, one of the first things that crops up. And I always tell people, there's a few things in place already where you can make sure you have access to enterprise-ready AI systems, right? So you're not sending private information to ChatGPT. Everything is within your firewall or within your domain. And you already give Microsoft and Google your IP because you all use Office documents and your IP is all tied up in that. So let's not get confused that AI is just kind of an extension of that. But there's also a real danger that CISOs are worried about, because even if you look at things like copilots and code generation, there's a lot of times where the AI-generated code is not secure, right? And so, again, scrutiny and holding things to a certain standard and having human-in-the-loop evaluation is really a key part of that.
Thank you. Here it actually appeared. How do you handle in testing that Gen AI usually lies? Some say 20%.
So by lie, I think you mean hallucinate, right? That's the euphemism for this, right?
Absolutely.
How can you handle that? Well, number one, I mentioned already, you need humans in the loop. The other thing is to understand why the models are hallucinating, right? Models are hallucinating because most of the models are pre-trained up to a certain point, and then training ends. If you don't have sufficient information either in the context of what you're doing, or you don't connect your model to some external data source, using like retrieval augmented generation as a whole here, as an example, then your model will make up something, right? So really reducing that gets into making sure you have an up-to-date model, making sure you know how to do prompt and context engineering, and then making sure your model has access to tools where it can, leverage the most up-to-date data.
Amazing. As an experienced test automation engineer, oh, I love it when it skips while I'm reading. That's really cool. Where should I start if I would like to deal with/join in this new AI agent era?
Yeah, where do you start, man? You just open your eyes and look. I mean, to be all serious, there's frameworks out there, agentic frameworks coming out all the time. Everything from LangChain to LangGraph. There's newer things that are on the market. Everyone is doing this agent-based stuff. So I would just say, do a search, Google is your friend, or ask GPT to show you certain things, or Gemini, and you'll be amazed at how much you can learn from just putting it into action. So don't just use the AI for informational and believe what it says. Ask it to help you do something, try to do it, and see if it works, right? So, and then if not, just find a very smart human that knows how to do it, and that's where you start.
Thank you. Where are the flaws or drawbacks from using AI tools in test automation?
What are the flaws or drawbacks from using AI tools? Okay.
Yeah,
So number one, AI is expensive in a way compared to more procedural methods, right? So that's one of the draws. The other drawback is that you do have to put in some effort to make sure that you've invested in the right aspects of this. Like it's not just about tools, as I mentioned. So there's a whole bunch of organizational things that need to happen. Most of the time there's resistance from humans in AI adoption, but tool sets themselves are rapidly changing and they're not very uniform. They're still very dissected in the testing space. So there's tons of drawbacks there, but some of those drawbacks you're dealing with even without AI. It's just drawbacks in the test automation space. And the AI specific ones, I think you can learn to kind of navigate through or manage because the benefits are great, right? But always start with the AI problem first. Don't just use AI as a shiny new toy.
Why don't we use that 1 minute, because I think that these maybe require a bit more time to maybe say a few words about the masterclass that you're having, because you still have the time to apply if you want to.
Well, the masterclass is going to be real dynamic, I can tell you that. I teach a unit testing course, which I've taught for many, many years. And what I'm doing with the masterclass, thanks to Attila's genius of doing something different, is trying to leverage AI to accelerate learning in that class and usefulness of code generation and so on and so forth. So I haven't really done it before, and we're going to do it together and see if we can use AI to solve our problems.
Okay, you can still register if you would like. Ladies and gentlemen, this amazing guy was Tariq King. Big applause for him. Thank you so much.